Okay, now let's move on with the second part of the chapter. So what we will do now is what currently I have in the setup is I reach to this window. You guys might have reached to this window as well. So both machines are available here, rack 1 and rack 2. These are the two nodes. So now I'll go and set up one by one each of them. So let me click and put forward, agree the license agreement, don't want to register this time, no, connect later, say forward. You can see say synchronized data and time over network. We'll check it for some moment and then done. Uncheck the enable kdump and then finish, say no. So now login as root. The first part is we need to disable the firewall. Go to system administration firewall, close this, disable, apply, yes, close this. Now as per our planning, I have told you that I'll start configuring the IP addresses. So let me bring up my IP addresses in front. So yeah, so currently these are the IP addresses. So as you all already know that we have 3 network cards in each virtual machine. So what we will do is we will assign private IP to the private port or the private card, public address to the public card, but there is another one, just leave as DHCP. So let me show you what I'm trying to say in here. First of all, I'll open the terminal, say ifconfig. So you guys see that this has been assigned with 192.168.10. It means that this is public IP, internet routable IP. This is private, this is host only, and this is public as well. So what I will do is I'll leave ETH2 as unassigned and auto DHCP, but I'll assign the IP address to this one and this one. So how do you do it? So just right click, edit connections. So what is that? ETH0, double click that, go to manual, add IP address. Let me pull up my information. So it says 192.10.150. So I'll assign the first IP, public IP address 192.168.10.150. Net mask is 255.255.255.0. Gateway we will what we will do is currently we will keep the gateway as our home router as well as DNS server, but eventually what we will do is we need to point these machine to the correct DNS server. That's what I informed you guys earlier, saying that we will have one DNS server in our environment, means clusterware environment. Now there will be 3 IP addresses which will be resolved by a scan name. So now these machine will have a DNS server name, DNS server IP addresses. So sorry guys, I'm back. So what we are doing is, I was telling you guys, we don't want to take that much time in this, but I was just trying to say that eventually this particular server or the node will be pointing to the DNS server. So for us, DNS server will be not the router, but the other server which we will be installing in future. I'll show you how. And now eventually we have to point out so that these nodes can be resolvable by IP to host name and host name to IP by our DNS server, not the DNS server in our router itself. So for that, currently, because we don't have DNS server yet, what we will do, we will assign it a DNS IP which is assigned to the router itself. Which is 10.1. Apply. Now ETH1 is private IP address. So what I will do is go manual. This will be 192.168.47.150. We will give it not 147, sorry, 47 150. And you don't need gateway because the gateway won't work here. This is private IP, so this is not the internet routable IP address, so there is no meaning of providing the gateway and other DNS servers and other information. So just click apply. This is interconnect and it has no other use rather than you going for internet connect internet what do you call interconnect and heartbeat for the both nodes. Apply. Click apply. This one I will leave as automatic DHCP and close it. Now currently these IP addresses has not been set up. Of whatever you have done, this has not been set up, so you have to restart the network interfaces so that the IP addresses will be reflected. So what I will do, I'll disconnect and reconnect. Same thing for others, and finally for this one and this one. So now when I do if config, you will see that the IP addresses are reflected, and this is auto assigned. This is by DHCP, so you don't need to worry about it. Now let's check hosts file. So what we will do, we will go to another node and do the same thing, and eventually what we will do, we won't be setting up anything from the virtual machine itself. We will set up a SSH client so that it will be a lot easier for us to make changes from the SSH clients rather than going in the virtual machine and doing the work. It's not easy to copy and paste stuff. If you have a note and you start copying the stuff, it's very hard. It does not recognize the copy and paste from the host machine to the virtual machine. So I'd rather use the SSH client. So I'll show you how to set that up as well. Let me do the same thing quickly on rack 2. So now you can see that everything is reflected. The public IP has been reflected, this thing has been reflected. So you need to make sure that you have to do changes on both the nodes. Now we can also check the partitions as well, the drives we have created. So you do df-h and it shows that we have grid, and we have Oracle as well as slash, and its use, how much it's used and how much is available. We have a lot of space available. In future we will be starting to set up the grid infrastructure and then eventually set up the Oracle database. At that point we will be needing those mount points. So now you can see the mount point, and you can see the mount point as well here. Okay, so what is left? We need to, okay, so what we will need to do now is, for easy usage of these virtual machine, let's set up the SSH client. We don't want to waste time going into the virtual machine and then going into another virtual machine. So what I will do, I have a SSH client which I have already shown you. I have this MobiXterm. So what I will do is create a new folder. It's good for organization as well. When you want to organize your sessions, or let's say that you are creating a rack infrastructure, and other than that you are creating a single instance databases and those things, then better to start creating the folder and put the sessions into that folder. It will be kind of, segregation and a clean environment you keep. So that is how I do. So I'll just say rack machines. Now I'll right click and create a new session. Go to SSH. You want to do SSH session. You need public IP address. You don't need a private IP address. For that you need to do 192.168. So let me show you which one I'm trying to connect. I'll create two sessions. This is the first one, this is the second one. I'm not going to touch any one of them. Anyhow, these two won't be active currently. These ones will be active after the grid infrastructure is installed and clusterware is set up. This is not the one we are trying to connect. This is the public address, so this is the one we will be using, 192.168.150. Currently Oracle user is not set up, so I'll use root. And you can make other settings. The settings which I like is change the fonts and change the size of the text so that you can see it properly. Other than that, what we can do is, yeah, this is fine for now. So you see that we are not able to connect to any machines, otherwise we would have gotten the prompt. Yeah, so now we have gotten the prompt. So perfect. So same thing we will do for other machine. New session SSH 192.168.10.151. Click this and say root. Terminal font size is 16. Say OK. And say OK. Because I have already entered the password, so it is remembering it. So you don't need to enter the password again. It will store it. So now, first thing first is we need to make sure that the IP addresses for both machine as well as the upcoming machine, which is CentOS machine, which will be our DNS server, all those IP addresses are mentioned in hosts file so that they are pingable using both name as well as IP addresses. So we need to make sure that all the details will be same on all the nodes on all the host files. I'll show you what I'm trying to say. So I'll go to etc hosts. Currently there is no entry. What I will do, I'll pull up my details. Okay, I'll mention public, private, and this will be DNS. I have DNS server details, so I'll use the same thing. Sorry, you paste it. Okay, so just copy everything. Where is my cursor? Okay, right click, copy it, wq, save it, vi/etc hosts. So now you guys understand what I was trying to say. Whatever information we provided in the first node should be there on all the nodes. Because CentOS machine is still not up, I'll create a video and make sure to upload it so that you guys know how to create DNS server and how these machines will look up to the DNS server and how scan IPs will be resolved eventually. So now I'll just cat etc hosts. Okay, now so I'll end this session. In the next session we will set up all the Oracle prerequisite to start setting up the grid infrastructure, as well as further on to the ASM and everything. So thank you very much.